When I was playing football as a sophomore, it was October the 6th, remember the date, and I got hit right here. And it hurt like crazy. I mean, and I just about crawled off the field. And I get over there, and the coach is all, "What's the matter?" And I don't know, man. It hurts like crazy. Now, back then, the basic philosophy was, if there's no blood and there's no bone sticking out, why are you off the field? And so he says, well, I said, "Man, it hurts really bad." He said, "Well, jog down there and back." So I did, and he said, "Get back in there." So I went back in. I played, and then about 3 weeks later, we're running 100-yard sprints at the end of practice, because that was you had to run as many 100-yard sprints as you gave up points. And the team that I played on can best be described as awful. We were at one point, the school I went to was 0-39 in league games. And so we held the record of San Diego CIF record of 15 consecutive losses. And then we tied that record. So anyway, we weren't very good. But so we did a lot of running. We were in great shape, though, but we weren't very good football players. And so we're running, and when we would run these 100-yard sprints, invariably somebody would be running into me about the 50-yard line. And I was fine. I just got ticked off. And we get to the end, and I said, "Look, stop running into me." And he goes, "No, I'm not running into you. You're running into me." And I said, "No, I'm not running into you. I'm running straight down the field. You're running into me." He said, Yeah. So we're arguing. And he said, "Look, well, I'll show you." And you know what hash marks are on the field? Those white lines. So he says, "You line up." I said, "I'll line up here, and you line up here. We'll see who's running into who." So we take off. About the 40-yard line, sure enough, smack. We're smacking into each other. I look down, and I'm way over here. Now, I can't figure out why. I finally go to the doctor. I think it was because I got stepped on and they were taking my toenail off at that point. But anyway, and so I'm sitting up on the examination table, and the doctor comes in and he says, "What's that hole in your leg?" I said, "What?" He said, "There's a big depression in your leg." And I said, "Oh, I don't know." So he starts poking, and he says, "This is deep." Wow. So he said, grabs my hand and said, "Feel that?" "Oh, yeah." He said, "That's the bone. Now you can try pushing on your leg, and you probably aren't going to hit bone because you have muscles in the way." And what had happened was apparently between the thigh pad and the knee pad, the face guard had hit right there, and it snapped the muscle just in half. Now I was impressed that happened anyway. But then I went to that body exhibit, with the cadavers, and I actually saw how big that muscle is. And I'm seriously impressed that got torn in half, because that's a big thing. And so what was happening was, because I only had 3 of the 4 muscles here, every time I took a step with my left leg, it was shorter than the step with my right leg. So basically, when I was running what I thought straight, I was just running in a giant circle. And if I'd have kept running, I'd have come back to where I started. But so that was that. But they ended up. I had to wait. Well, I didn't have to wait, but by the time they figured out what it was, I had the surgery in December, and by then it had healed up on itself. And so the scar, which is supposed to be like this long, is now like way up here, because they kept trying to find the end of it, cutting this longer and longer. And they ended up just shredding it and laying on top of each other. So you can still push. Not you can't do this, but if I do it, I push real hard. I can feel the bone. So I don't recommend tearing that muscle in half. Oh, the disc rupture. Now, the most serious injury I ever had was when I ruptured a disc. And at the time, I didn't know it had ruptured, but I was playing for University of California, San Diego. And I have to tell you this part. We played our first game before the school year started. And UCSD at that point, well, I played on the only football team that UCSD ever had. We were 1 year, okay? And I thought my high school team was bad. We lost to Caltech. Okay. Caltech had lost 35 in a row. They beat us, and they stopped playing football after that because they figured this is as good as it's going to get. So the first game, we get beat 40-0. Okay. The only redeeming thing is my high school team got beat 41-0 the next night. So, but we're there on the field, and the cheerleaders come. Now, they've never been to school that early before in their life because they've only had to cheer for basketball before. And, you know, the University of California cheer, UCSD or UCLA or UC whatever it is, okay? So they're going UCSD, and then the second time they do it, they're US. No, wait a minute, stop. No. They're spelling 4 letters wrong, okay? So this is the football program I'm involved in. And we had to play anybody that had an open spot in their schedule. And the open spot, one of the spots we got was Cal Lutheran. Now, Cal Lutheran was the defending small school champion at the time. And we have, like 30 guys. And we go up there on a big school bus. And we show up, and they must have 200 players. They're just everywhere. And they're big and they're fast, and we're not either one of those. And so the game starts, and I have to tell you that we were really good at punting. We did a lot of punting. And so if you punt, when you punt, you have to have somebody that stands in front of the kicker. They have different names, but if you watch football games, there's always one guy that's in front of the kicker, and his job is to pick the most dangerous rusher and block. Okay. Now, there's 2 things you have to be able to do that job. One, you have to be able to figure out who's coming fast. And second, don't back up. Okay? Because if you back up, you get like a football up your fanny. So, I got to be the up guy because I learned those 2 things. Look for people who are running fast and don't back up. Okay? So I'm the protector. And this probably, like, I don't know, it's still the first half. I mean, this is probably our 6th or 7th punt. And the guy punts, and the rule was, if he punted it and went over this way, I was to go with the ball, and he went to the other side in case they ran a reverse. Right? Like they were ever going to do that because they didn't have to. But, so they kick the ball this time, and it goes over here, and so I take off. Now, they're trying to set up what's called a picket line, and they've got guys lined up about every 10 yards, and they're looking to the inside. And I see this. Yeah. University of California, I've been there, right? So I figure if I get in between, behind these guys and the sideline, they're looking in where all the other people are. So I get between them. I'm behind these guys, and here comes the guy with the ball. And one of the guys turns around, and he sees me, right? And he buries his helmet right here. Just smack. And I go down. And I get up, and I'm looking for a flag, and sure enough, they actually called a penalty. And so I jog off. Now, remember, this is the same time frame. There was no blood, we're good. Also, quarterbacks never ran out of bounds. Okay, you just did. I mean, today, everybody slides, runs out of bounds, throws the ball away. We didn't do that. Since I was playing quarterback and linebacker, I'm playing quarterback on offense, and we run a sweep. It was supposed to be a pass, but when they're right here, you just turn it into a sweep. And so I'm running, and the guy tackling me, and I'm trying to... And so I run off, and then we go to punt. And so the coach says, "Johnny, get in there, it's punt." So I very dutifully take a step and fall flat, face down. And I'm laying there, and he's, what's the matter? I said, I don't know. And he says, I said, my leg doesn't move. So there's silence. And they're rustling, and they put me up on the bench. And they take me in at halftime, and I can't move my leg. And so they put me in, they shoot me with something, and I'm laying on this bench. And then we have to go home afterwards. Now, we got there on a school bus. And you don't want to, when your back is damaged, and your leg doesn't feel, they don't want you to do that. So my parents are there. And so they ask my parents, can you take him home? Oh, we'd be happy to. Okay, so my parents had a 1968 Chevrolet Chevelle, which is a nice car, except it's about, that wide. And so I'm laying in the back seat, but I can't lay in the back seat. So my legs are bent and my feet are up on the window. Okay. And I'm laying there. And the reason I'm in the back seat is because my dad's driving, my mom's sitting in the middle, and another guy got hurt in the game. And his inflated, just huge. And they're positive he's ruptured his spleen. And so he's going home with us. Because... and every time you go over those little bumps on the road, man, and it's all the way home. My legs are up, and we get to the hospital, UCSD hospital, and they come running out because there was no cell phones, but they had called and said, so we honk and they come running out, and they take this guy first because then they come out again, and this guy comes out, and he looks like he's maybe 19, 20, 21. And he starts fiddling around with me, and my mom, bless her heart, says, "Don't you think we ought to wait for the doctor?" And Thomas Laughlin, Jr., MD, said, "I'm the chief orthopedic surgeon here at the hospital." And, so anyway. So I am 18 years old, okay? Just about this tall, not quite this wide. I weigh 210 pounds. I'm 6 feet tall. They take me to pediatrics. Because I'm 18, right? Now, pediatrics, beds are 6 feet long. Okay? So my head is touching, my feet are touching. Okay? They give me a pediatrics hospital gown. You need to understand, hospital gowns are not noted for their... Anyway, and so the hospital gown is this long. I'm not making this up. It's this long. It doesn't tie in the back. It will not go across that way, right? And meanwhile, while this is happening to me, we find out the next day that the guy that we took down there, that what had happened, he got hit so hard that he'd inflated his stomach with air. He spent the night burping, and they sent him home. True story. So I'm laying in this pediatric bed with this on, and the morning the nurse comes in and she says, "What are you doing here?" Like it's my fault. So I said, "This is where they..." She says, "You don't belong in here. You belong on the 5th floor in orthopedics." And so they bring me a pediatrics robe, which is this long, and won't meet in the middle. Okay? And they bring me a pediatrics wheelchair, which I can only sit in like this, which is good, because remember that the robe is this long. And so I think I'm quite a show as I'm going to the elevator. And I get up to the 5th floor, and they put me in traction. Now, if you've never had traction, the best way I could describe it is they pretty much try to pull you apart. It's kind of like the rack, but it's legal. And they put this thing under your neck, and they hung this weight, over a pulley, and they put a belt on. And I'm laying there, and about, probably 3 or 4 hours later, this nurse comes in, and she says, "It's time to go to physical therapy." Better than being stretched to death. So they take me down to the basement. Physical therapy is in the basement. And I go there, and the lady girl, the physical therapist says, "Well, just lay down." So I lay down, and she says, "Now, here's what I want you to do." I said, "We're going to do some tests to see what's wrong." And she said, "The first thing you're going to do is you're just going to hold your toes up." These are toes now. So you're going to hold your toes up. I'm going to pull on them, and you're going to don't let me pull them down. Okay? Now, at this point in time, I have 24-inch thighs and 17-inch calves. There's no way on the planet she is pulling my toes down. And I know that. So she says, "Which one is hurt?" I said, "This one." She said, "Okay, let's try the other one." She starts pulling. Lean into it, girl. Nothing. What? That's good. I said, "I know." He says, "Let's try the other one." Okay. So I like this. And just, okay, hold it up. Now, I have no idea what's going on. Okay. She said, no, hold it up. I said, I am. She says, oh. So she pushes it back up and says, let's try that again. Hold it up. Now, this time I'm watching. So I know there's a problem right there. And, but they put me in a back brace and sent me home because I didn't want to miss school. True story. So 9 weeks later, after that, at the end of the quarter, they're going to do surgery on me. And this is way before MRIs and this kind of stuff. They did something called a myelogram. And a myelogram, they don't tell you about this ahead of time, but they schedule this. And so I go and they lay me down on, there's this wedge-shaped piece of foam rubber, and I'm leaning over it like this, and they strap me, put straps over me. And then they take a needle and they put it in about right here, and then they unscrew the plungy part, and they put another needle inside of it, and they squirt dye into your back. Okay. Now, because they're trying to see where it leaks out. That sounds cool. What they don't tell you is, in order to find out where it's leaking, they rotate the bed. Okay. So I'm laying there like this, and all of a sudden the bed's going, ah. They're turning it, and I'm, ah. And all of a sudden, this guy's over standing on the side, and they're looking at what's called a fluoroscope, which is probably they wouldn't use anymore now, but it's like an X-ray movie. So they're looking at this, and the guy's like, and all of a sudden he goes, oh my goodness. No, okay, that's not what you want to hear. Seriously. And I can't see him because I'm, and I hear him run out of the room. Oh, this is not good. And so he's out, and he comes back, and he's got these guys with, look, why? You know, I can't see. What? Look at what? And he's all, give me a ruler. What? You know, he's all, yeah. And there's cheering. You guys are cheering. And so I find out later that there's writing on the machine. He showed me afterwards. There's writing on the machine. And what they would do is they would measure the X-ray spot of the ruptured disc, because the disc material spreads out. And I'll have you know that I held the hospital record for the size of the rupture of a disc. Okay. And so then they go in and they do the surgery. Now, surgery that they do is they take a chisel, okay, and they use a hammer and they smack your vertebrae. And then they take a scalpel and they shave your hip. And then they take the shavings and they put it in the broken bone, and it like makes a fence, heals like a big fence. Now, in 1968, this is cutting edge technology. Okay. In 2005, when I had the vertebrae, the disc above it finally gave up, there's an MRI that's being done, and the surgeon at that point says, well, we'd like to go in there, but he said, there's a lot of bone there. That's pretty primitive work. Hey, I felt like smacking him. You punk. This is old. This is older than you are, you know. And so, but I digress. Anyway, so where was I? No. In this story. Chisel. Okay. So once they do this, they don't ask you if you want pain medication. They just give it to you. Now, the pain medication they were giving me was called Demerol. And I found out later that Demerol, people break into hospitals and steal it because it's hallucinogenic. And so at the time, the way they explained it to me was the concoction they were using, your body broke it down, and so the next shot had to have more because otherwise it wasn't good. And so they're giving me shots, and I'm not going to tell you about I don't know about you, but I don't go to the bathroom well at all laying down. Okay. So you can let your imagination run on that one. But like sometime on the second day, it really doesn't hurt that bad. I mean, it honestly does not. I mean, it's considering. So she comes in to give me the shot, the nurse. And I said, do I have to have that? She, no. I said, well, then I don't want it. Apparently nobody ever says that after back surgery because she's got this befuddled look as she leaves. I said, well, if you need it, you just call and I'll come back. Okay. So that was about, I don't know, sometime in the morning. Well, about 3:30 in the afternoon, it starts to hurt. And so I pushed the button. And then the new nurse now, because they shift change at 3 o'clock, the new nurse comes and she says, yes. And I said, can I have my pain shot? And she kind of looks at her watch and says, well, it's a little bit early, but you're a big guy. Sure, why not? So she goes and gets, all right, here we go. I was on shot number 5. Okay, I didn't have shot number 6. Okay. She doesn't look. Now, I should have had shot number 5 again because of the skip. She gives me shot number 7. Okay. Now, shot number 7 is now 2 doses over what I'm supposed to have. Okay. So she gives me the shot, and I just you just melt. It's so, wow. And you can't move, and it doesn't matter, Oh, this is great, And I'm laying there for a while. I have no idea how long. And it suddenly dawns on me that I can see myself laying on the bed. Now, my body says, you're laying on the bed. My brain says, yes, there you are, laying on the bed. So there's this discrepancy, right? And so I figure I'll solve this. Now, what I have to tell you next, at Disneyland at the time, there was a ride called Journey into Inner Space. It's where Star Tours is right now. And there was a giant, like 15-foot concrete snowflake that was outside. And you got into the ride and you went into a water molecule. It gets smaller and smaller. So that's just background information. So now, when you close your eyes, you can see colors. This is now December 17th, 18th, somewhere in there. So it's close to Christmas. So I close my eyes, and red and green snowflakes appear. Giant red and green snowflakes appear, falling from the ceiling. Now, so I've got my eyes closed. Here come these giants. I can't move. And so I realize if I keep laying here with my eyes closed, I'm going to get crushed by giant red and green snowflakes. So I open my eyes, and they go away. But there I am, laying on the bed. So I alternate between closing my eyes and being crushed by snowflakes and opening my eyes and seeing myself on the bed. And I'm trying to get to the nurse call button. And it's going, and finally I hit the call button, and I can hear the nurse coming. And as she gets to the door, I yell, "Watch out for the snowflakes!" All the blood drains from her face. And I hear her running back to the nurse's station. And she comes back, and she came in and she said, I'm so sorry. And she sat beside me for 3 hours, patting my hand, saying, it'll be all right. And I kept saying, there I am. Watch out for the snowflakes. So that was that story.